exposure to a high-energy cosmic storm could advance our knowledge about planetary life.
Same old Reed, always stretching, reaching for the stars.
A group of 5 scientists go to space, and their spaceship gets hit by a cosmic storm that they're studying.
I'm the only one to be directly exposed to the cloud with only that as a barrier.
The cloud descends over all of them.
They're hit with a cosmic storm that changes their DNA to possess certain powers.
That's gross.
The reasons for our powers are supposed to be directly related to our personas.
The accident sort of accentuates each of their sort of characteristics that we had before the accident.
And from that point on, the movie is about their discovery of the powers. Reed Richards has the ability to change his body into any form that he can imagine.
He's able to stretch his arms, all his limbs, even his body.
Reed is quite, malleable. He's always trying to spread himself too thin. My character, of course, goes invisible. She's in a man's world. I think she feels overlooked, and she might as well be invisible.
Reed, look at me.
I can't.
What also happens is she gains the power to create force fields.
Later on in the movie, she embraces that power.
I play Johnny Storm. He's kind of a wild card, he's a bit of a daredevil.
Johnny's quite cocky and walks around like he's the man.
I need names and shots. Bartender!
His power is he can burst into flames, ignites his whole body, and he can fly. And he likes the attention, and what's more attention-grabbing than bursting into flames?
You don't want to walk around on fire for the rest of your life, do you?
Is that a trick question?
I played Ben Grimm, a.k.a. The Thing. Let's go for the top. And I really think he's one of the most beloved comic characters of all time.
His body is covered in rocks, and he also has the power of real strength.
He can never go back and forth. He's just always in that transformation.
He's this monster, he's hideous, and he's beyond a reluctant hero. He doesn't want any part of that.
Ben becomes the symbol of don't judge a book by its cover. What a great man he is on the inside.
His character is definitely the most lovable.
Where are your ears?
I play Dr. Doom. He's the original nemesis. He's the original bad guy.
It's so clear that Doom was an inspiration to many, many villains.
Influencing Darth Vader for the Star Wars movies. He also is made of steel. He becomes an extremely strong, powerful. He can electrocute things.
A steel, cold-hearted man.
Once he kind of gets the feel of the whole thing, he actually starts to enjoy it.
We're the only ones who can stop him.
The 4 of them become good superheroes, and I become a bad guy. Let's not fight.
No, let's.
Susan, you're fired.
You will definitely see the Fantastic Four take on Dr. Doom full on. And on. And on. And on and on. And a lot of things get trashed in the meantime.
I think there's no question that now is a good time to make Fantastic Four with what we can do with imagery and stretching and fire.
Technology now is allowing us to create fire effects and layers that we couldn't have done 3 years ago.
We actually took Ioan Reed to a green screen session. We shot his face performance, and we added that to our digital actor.
We're taking Jessica's performance and applying that to our 3D model.
Let's shoot it.
The prosthetics on the thing really help bring out that performance.
And you see some real subtle emotion. You see Ben Grimm in his eyes.
The suit provides me with almost everything that I've needed to play Ben Grimm, to play the Thing.
By the technology that is available now within movie making, we're actually able to transfer these stories to the big screen and make them believable.
I think we crave heroes who are real that we can identify with.
Every movie has a hero. We got 4.
No pun intended, but it's a fantastic world.
At the climax of this film, hopefully that audience will applaud. It's clobbering time.
think of anything cooler than to be a superhero.
I was scared of whether the comic book fans were gonna want me to be Sue.
I just think it's important to let the cast play, and I think if you got the right cast, when they play, it's just magic.
I had absolutely nothing to do with the casting process.
A new day is dawning, the day of the Fantastic Four.
My name is Stan Lee, and together with Jack Kirby, the artist, I created the Fantastic Four.
It's fundamentally altered our DNA.
I think any time would be the right time for a film version of these characters, but it just so happens that now, with the state of the art the way it is, we can put things on the screen that we couldn't have done years ago.
Now picture that, but everywhere.
I'm an old Marvel Comics collector, and I loved the Fantastic Four as a kid and felt that this could take its place among the great movie comic book franchises.
The casting process is just everything to me. I mean, it's just so much fun. These are the most important pieces that you're going to use in telling your story.
Each of these actors is going to embody these characters in such a way that you won't be able to think about the Thing without thinking about Michael Chiklis. You won't be able to think about Sue Storm without thinking Jessica Alba. That's kind of fun for them to establish these characters and to, set the foundation of this comic franchise.
Once you get a great cast, there's a magic that you can't direct. It comes from just the right cast being together and feeding off one another.
Let's shoot it! When I met Michael Chiklis, he said to me, Stan, I've wanted to be the Thing for years.
It was something I was a fan of when I was a kid, and was my favorite of all the comic book characters, the Thing. So I had a little childhood dream fulfillment. To make the leap onto the big screen from the small screen is often daunting, and you want to make as big a splash as you can make. This was something that could make a big old cannonball splash, and I'm really happy at the way it's turned out.
Here's a guy playing a role who is actually a fan of the character he's playing, and when you see him as the Thing in this movie, I don't think anybody on earth could have played it as well as he did.
We are so lucky to have gotten you to play this.
Oh, thank you, sir, so much.
I don't think anybody else could do it this way.
He really wanted to be this role and transforms when he's inside of the makeup and really embodies who the Thing is.
It's clobbering time.
I sat down and I said, if I was gonna play Sue Storm, this is how I would play her. So you're probably not gonna hire me, because I thought Sue Storm should be conservative, intelligent, a little uptight, a little controlling, emotional, maternal, madly in love with her guy. I don't know how many gene research scientists are young women. So she's really, really smart. And Tim and Ralph said to me later after we were on the set, they were like, no actress has ever tried to talk us out of hiring them.
Jessica is terrific as the Invisible Woman. She's very smart, and I think that comes through on screen.
Having Jessica Alba play Susan Storm, I think it was a stroke of genius. She is so perfect. The fans love her, and she did a wonderful job.
When Stan Lee said, you are the best Sue Storm, I was like, the guy who created it embraces me, so how can the fans be mad? Look at me.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't? Look at me!
Ioan Gruffudd is just great as Reed Richards, or Mr. Fantastic, as he modestly refers to himself. And I think he brings a certain sobriety and thoughtfulness to counterbalance the other characters. He's great.
Who wouldn't want to be related to a character called Mr. Fantastic? I mean, it's awesome. I've been renowned for playing a character called Horatio Hornblower, so it's going to be great for people to be shouting, hey, Mr. Fantastic, how's it going?
It's clobbering time!
It's catchy, right?
It's clobbering time!
My gosh, Chris Evans as the Human Torch. He has all that wise guy personality, all the youthful enthusiasm, all the excitement about enjoying being the Torch.
Don't even think about it.
Never do.
What are you doing?
That role had very little on page, in the sense that Johnny Storm is really just a happy-go-lucky, kind of, in the comics, a teenager.
I said we'd be, upset if I take some liberties. Tim said, go for it. You know, whatever you want to do, just try it. And if it doesn't work, I'll let you know.
Chris Evans brought such an intelligence to that role, and he created a whole nother subplot just by him doing his thing.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you. So are you. It's great when you got a director who really gives you some creative freedom.
Julian McMahon playing Dr. Doom. They couldn't have chosen a better guy because he's intelligent looking. There's something a little menacing about him.
I like playing people who have some kind of, tortured in some kind of way, who have some kind of evolution, who have to go through a lot of stuff to get somewhere else. Victor is kind of a strange guy to begin with a little bit, but he kind of becomes this kind of evil, almost demonic kind of character.
When he becomes Dr. Doom, the change is so dramatic, and you feel so sorry for what happens to him. And yet you don't feel too sorry for him because he becomes not the nicest guy in the world.
I think I'll get a second opinion.
I don't want people to look at a certain personality and say that personality is playing this. I wanted people to go, wow, that's the character. And by being able to choose up-and-comers, I really did turn out with having a cast that was just kind of unbelievable. It's pretty amazing. I guess the other little tidbit is being able to work with Stan Lee, to see him in a scene with all his characters. It's pretty cool.
Welcome back to the Baxter, Dr. Richards.
He called me over and he said, Ioan, when we do the scene, just ask me a few more questions, you know, so I can get more screen time. We just improvised for like 5 or 6 minutes.
Thank you, Willie. My little cameo was not my idea, because to be very truthful, had it been my idea, I would have been one of the co-stars of the movie. There would have been a chance for any of them to say anything else.
Come on, am I the only guy who thinks this is cool?
I think that's a big thing about the success of these films, how innately relatable they are. The themes are broad and epic. It's like Greek theater with like cool special effects.
The best part of this job will be seeing this movie in the theater finish with an audience on opening night. That's fun.
We have the most talented people in the world doing our movies, and the Fantastic Four, I just marvel at, and that's the right word, at how well it was done, how beautifully it's acted, and I feel like a fan when I see it. I'm just as excited as any fan would be.
This is going to be costly and hard to do.
I thought it was too much of a challenge.
You don't want to do a bridge. It's too expensive. It's too complicated.
There were conversations about actually shutting down the bridge.
The time that we would need to shut that bridge down and obstruct traffic would be so enormous.
How bad is this going to be?
Obviously, we can't recreate the whole Brooklyn Bridge.
Should we have built 211 feet instead of 209 feet?
How are we going to make that work?
Exposure to a high-energy cosmic storm could advance our knowledge about planetary life.
To our future. I don't trust him.
We got what we wanted.
Just worried about what he wants.
It's the story, really, of how the Fantastic Four become who they are. They go into space, they encounter a cloud of strange radiation, and it alters their DNA. That gives them each these individual talents.
The scene that probably is the most interesting and fun and difficult is the Brooklyn Bridge sequence.
In the scene, Ben, he's up on top of the Brooklyn Bridge, and he bumps into a guy who's trying to commit suicide. And in trying to save him, it causes an accident, and he stops an 18-wheeler cab.
It escalates into a giant car wreck and a giant explosion.
The fire truck that comes up to save everybody is diverted by the explosion and is kicked off of the bridge, hanging out over the ladder part.
The Brooklyn Bridge was a huge obstacle. The first thing we thought about was shooting on the actual bridge. Is that feasible? Is it possible?
We went to the Brooklyn Bridge and we scouted it, and, you know, head in our hands, there's no way. They're not going to shut the bridge down.
I had that fear, how difficult and how impossible this whole thing is.
Ralph Winter, the producer, came up with the idea to build a section of the Brooklyn Bridge.
The challenge on the Brooklyn Bridge scene is that we have to create a full-on action sequence on a bridge that we can't actually physically go shoot on. We have to shoot on a 200-foot set.
You're on the bridge, and anybody that knows the Brooklyn Bridge, it's completely open, and you have to, every direction you look, except up, you're going to have a view of New York.
We ended up building 200 feet of the Brooklyn Bridge in a parking lot in Vancouver. We surrounded it with blue screen and shot it there.
Went out, shot pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge, actually scraped pieces of paint off the Brooklyn Bridge so we could match it. Took pictures of all the details, all the bolts and everything, and it is an exact replica of a 200-foot section of the Brooklyn Bridge.
If you're really going to sell daylight Brooklyn Bridge, you want to be over on the Brooklyn side looking back at Manhattan and see all of that spectacle.
We've got CG water, CG boats, we've got helicopters, we have CG flame, we've got all of the matte paintings, creating the whole look of New York on this bridge.
After you see it's New York, you don't even think about the fact that you're not really there, you're in a parking lot in Vancouver. We wanted to have things stop a 40-foot tractor trailer. We had to really think that out. What are the physics that are involved here? We put a steel pole and then we filled it with cement, but we had to figure out where to position that. So once we figured it out, we actually put 40,000 pounds of cement on the roadway. We strung the truck on a shiv so that we could actually drive from this side, and as we drive here, it's pulling this truck towards us. And we pulled that thing at 35 miles an hour. We'd set 5-6 cameras up, and we actually just barely got the action because the action wasn't hitting in the center, it was hitting over here because it drove that pole, I don't know, 3 feet.
200 feet sounds like a lot of set, unless you're dealing with the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's not very much Brooklyn Bridge. So we could barely house the whole accident on the bridge itself.
We'd have to keep resetting the crash overnight to a different place, and then reset it for second unit and set it back for first unit.
This thing starts to spin back this way. This Mazda's playing it close. You've got to commit, you've got to hit with speed.
I mean, really, when you think about it, cars really don't travel that fast over the Brooklyn Bridge, so cars flying over each other is probably not going to happen. But the way they devised the scene with exploding propane tanks, you can see that happening.
And this fireball is anticipated to come out about 3 or 4 feet.
The fire truck was particularly difficult. We had to find fire trucks. We had to find a couple of them that would match.
It was impossible to move a fire truck that weighed 10 tons, move it up off of the pavement, have it crash through steel girders.
We took one of them and just gutted it. You know, fire trucks are made out of huge steel pieces because when those ladder things go up, again, the physics and geometry is such that it just gets off balance very quickly, so it's enormously heavy.
We had to make this truck slide 40 or 50 feet through girders and make that convincing. So we had to figure out a way to do a handoff with the physical effects group. We did that by breaking up the sequence into small chunks, where we would hand off a real truck driving up to a computer-generated truck. So we'd drive the truck to a certain point and then just cut and stop it. And once we got that, then we were able to take over with the CG truck. Not only did we have to deal with the CG truck, we had firemen on top of it. So we had to deal with a handoff of firemen, stunt people that were photographed on the real truck, and then combine that with our computer-generated firemen seamlessly across 25 shots in the sequence.
The technology is advanced, and it's almost the perfect time to do a movie like this with the effects that we can achieve.
I'm very proud of it. I feel good about it. It's exciting.
Out of an 8.5 minute sequence, 8 minutes, I think is almost full CG, so it's pretty impressive.
I'm very happy with it, the sense of just knowing how difficult and how impossible this whole thing was, that we pulled it off. Myself, I just look at the shot and go, wow, that's pretty freaking cool.